Go ahead and start without him. So want to thank everyone for coming back into our work meeting. I believe we were on item 3.11, which is an update on the Olympia Hills development. Gordon.
Okay. Yeah, how far is Jared? I think he needs to hear what's going on there.
I'll talk really slow.
Awkward silence.
He's just right next
Talk
door.
slow.
So
what about that weather?
Is that slow enough? No, so we're all familiar with Olympia Hills, where it's going on, and the first part Jared's going to know as well as any of you. I just wanted to illustrate it shares our city boundary all along here. So regardless of what, we're just talking about Olympia Hills. Happens in Olympia Hills is going to be.
He's out. Jared out.
It's going to be a big impact to the city. Right now, we have an annexation declaration that includes Olympia Hills and this Kennecott property. And so our official position, because it was officially adopted by several councils ago, was that should be in our city. So
can I just make a quick comment to that?
Yep.
At the Western Growth Coalition meeting we had on Monday, Mayor Ramsey on the public record said that South Jordan has no intent to take any of this property into South Jordan.
But they don't take it.
They don't take
get qualifications, goes through the state.
True, I just wanted to once again point out that South Jordan had been vocal about that.
Appreciate it. They
We
have,
appreciate that.
politically and administratively.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying is that this body has said, bring that into the city. So from a staff perspective, I see three things. One is, I think the council's position, it should come into the city at an acceptable density. We need to have the ability to put in the correct infrastructure to make it work. It needs to have the access to, that doesn't deplete our park resources and other kinds of things. Sometimes people look at parks different than infrastructure. I think from our city perspective, we've always thought parks are.
Your computer's not showing on the recording, so give me your connection.
Sorry about that. We're showing here just fine. And so I've talked to the developer, and he's interested in coming into the city. And there's kind of three things you need to think about. And the first is they're interested in making sure that we have a timely process. They would like it not to go a year to get a development agreement in place, but we obviously could take 6 months or so to get through the process. Two,
was that a process at a minimum at least 6 months?
The annexation, you can only do it in January or February, but you'd like to see that we got some
January
kind
or July.
January, July 1st or January 1st. Those are only 2 dates you can annex, but you can sign an annexation declaration anytime. There's probably no time that it could be annexed. It would be extraordinary if we could get to an agreement so it could be annexed January 1st. It's likely July 1st of 2019 if everybody worked very harmoniously and got everything in place. That'd be what I would see, knowing that we'd have to have an agreement in October to get all the documents filed to be ready to go forward.
For July 1st of 2019. Yeah. So at earliest it would be July 19th.
I would
probably
that would be
January 20.
That would be
rush.
What's that?
Why the rush?
They want to get their entitlement on their property. You know, it's just, I don't know that I have a good answer for you, but I'm just telling you what they've told us is they would rather not go through a very lengthy process. They feel like, so I'm just giving you the things that are inhibiting them from coming through the city. And then this body needs to decide if those things are things they can work on.
Well, certainly, we pride ourselves on working, attempting to work to the best solution with any developer, that we try and be efficient. And this developer and every developer ought to be or should be aware of the expanded process that we've put forward. We're not going to shirk that. To Councilman Henderson's point, this particular developer frankly has been through our expanded process. So I mean, I'm comfortable saying we will work as efficiently as we need to get the best product at the end of the day. I'm not going to rush and get a substandard project, because that's what happened with Olympia Hills, is you had what clearly was not even a realistic option given the existing infrastructure. So we will look at it much more thoroughly, and that's a promise we can give.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, definitely more thoroughly. The
And
second
it's
issue
finally
is they anticipate that there will be some apartments and some townhomes up on that project in the 900 acres. And then the third issue was they want to, one of their fears that come to the city is that it's referendable.
Clearly it is either way.
Well, it is clearly either way, but they don't feel that the county's a legitimate threat of referendum.
But again, look at when this developer went through the expanded process that we put in place, the referendum fear or threat dissolved, and we ended up with a better product. So if we can agree right from the get-go that we work through our thorough process and make sure that the residents are involved not only as the first step, but all throughout, why would we not have a very similar quality product at the end of the day as we did with the last? I mean, I think we have a good scenario to build upon.
Right,
I think Nicole's said it a couple of times. We're absolutely willing to talk to this developer or any developer, but we're not gonna shortcut the process. We're not going to agree, as John says, right? To preemptively say, we're going to agree to do whatever you want.
No, I think that they're not saying to have to agree with what they'd like to do, but I'm just saying that's what they'd like to see in the process. They're fearful that this process could be extraordinarily long, and they don't want to see that happen. They're afraid that.
That's up to them as much as it is us.
I think the
Right.
process will be deliberative, and that we will work together towards the best product. I think that's,
Okay.
should be what they want too, is a deliberative, thoughtful process that involves our residents, make sure the infrastructure supports it, and that at the end of the day, we have a product that is something good, and this developer can do it. He's proven it, very recently.
We saw that the county vetoed the previous amount because it was too much.
No, because people
Yeah,
spoke
I
up
was
about
gonna
it. Not because they approved the too much.
Yeah.
They
They
vetoed it
vetoed
because
it
people
because they
spoke
realized
up.
about it.
Right.
Because it was
Which-
too much.
We are proud of our residents for, because they did an amazing job.
So the issue, the kinds of things I would see is that the county probably has a penchant for a little more density than we would like to see. I think if it came through the city process, it would be more comfortable to our residents. It would end up, we would have a say to it. And so,
I just, another point I wanna make from our conversation, there was a couple of state elected officials in our Wasatch Front meeting that posed the question of, should the state be helping with legislation to push these type of large developments into cities by changing the state law? So I think that there's a lot of pressure because of this very specific issue to push these type of developments into the local municipality that do spend their time dealing with these types of developments. And so I would hate for Harriman to be a poster child of, we yelled and screamed and got what we wanted right away, and then we looked at that as an opportunity to say, well, we don't have to work with you, we can get whatever we want. So I think what we need to, the direction I would
I
give.
don't think anybody's saying that.
I don't either. I don't want that to become the case. So I think following the process that we already have in plan that is very robust and includes our public and works, and not changing because somebody wants something else is something that we all have stood up and said that's what we want to do. And so as long as we kind of stick to that, we're going to do our job. We're going to work through the process just like we should, and we would ask that the developer does the same thing. So I think that's where we should stand.
so I asked them, why did you go to the county? And those are the three reasons that they went to the county. Those-
Referendum, a higher density
And
want,
to go quicker.
and go quicker.
But does it make sense that they can go quicker? Because in all the discussions we've had in here, it was adamantly
good
told to
development.
us that they can't go quicker because they don't have the infrastructure to go quicker, so.
But his approvals.
All he
So,
wants,
but-
he wants the
but I
approvals
guess
for density.
And the big thing is it doesn't go quicker, it
The
goes much
product
slower. They just get stamped with their entitlement.
Right, so what they're asking is to get stamped with their entitlement quicker, so let me.
We have
Once
a
it goes through our
process.
deliberative process and
They will
we come
get
to
there.
a
We absolutely,
consensus,
just like
then-
any other project, absolutely, for the reasons you outlined, I will say that absolutely, we would rather have something in our city than not, so we can have a say in it and have it go through our process and have a better product. But we can't shortchange the process because of a threat.
And as
Well-
feedback to that threat, is simply, it's because it has to go through a process that makes it a better product. It's not so that we can shortchange and not allow development and not allow good developments, it's so that there is good development, so, because we are local, we are seeing the impacts that it has on every aspect of what's going on here, so it does create better products to have local input.
Well, and to Sherry's point, I couldn't agree more. I think that this, I appreciate the developer coming to us and wanting to annex in our city. I think annexing in our city is the only way that this development makes sense, frankly, for all involved. And I think, speaking to both the mayor and Sherry's comment, this is a nice opportunity to show the state, the county, and the legislature how a development like this ought to proceed. So I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to roll up our sleeves. The residents, the council, our council, the developer, the county, who we're going to be reliant on for some of our regional needs, regionally significant transportation needs out there, to
Yay.
show that there is a way to put in a level of product that will work for all the needs. So I'm excited about the opportunity to show how this ought to be done, because I think we have illustrated with Olympia Hills how it does not work. So let's band together and show how it will work and how it can work.
And I think it goes back to looking at the dancing product that we show on all of these as well. We made them go through the exact same process, and they were not happy when all of a sudden their neighbor got something entirely different than what was planned. I think that bringing them into the city and making them go to the same process that we can show right next door that we made another developer do, we owe it to that landowner, we owe it to that developer, we owe it to all of our residents to continue with that process. And so I'll stop pontificating.
Okay, so going forward, here would be some recommendations. We're gonna start a general plan, soon. We're getting RFPs, we're gonna be selecting somebody to move forward. That will likely take a year to get through the process. They don't wanna be behind that process, because that would just, that's
I
gonna
think
be
it's
long.
appropriate to do it concurrently with.
So, one of the recommendations I would make is that we talk about the holding capacity of the land. And the holding capacity is based on a number of very quantifiable things, including water, roads, parks, sewer, storm drain, just the contours of the land, where the drainages are, just.
Much of which that wasn't included the first time around, and second of all, there were a lot of those components that you just mentioned, primarily parks, that wasn't ever factored into there, so I absolutely agree that needs to be the approach.
So my recommendation would be this, is that we, as a city, make a determination of don't make a determination. We accelerate the process of getting some of the pre-work done. We come up, do a study with this, and that would include getting some money, hiring somebody that's a third party that would say, this is what the storm drain is, this is the water, this is the parks, this is how many.
And an unbiased third party, let's make that clear, that it's.
We would get somebody in here that would come in and look at the details of that and come back and report, so that as the public is hearing this, one of the things that would be valuable is for them to hear that this development is going to allow the roads to function, that they're still going to be able to have adequate water, the sewer, the things that are planned to go forward are take care of, whether it's the power, the gas, all those kinds of things. So I think, we've talked about this. I don't think, I think it would be something that the city needs to, we saw what somebody thought it should be, and granted it was wrong, the 8,700 units. We need to come up with a general plan that's going to say what should be on that property, how many units should be there, so we have some basis of saying something. I think there's a process, but I think that would help at least get us into a ballpark of what we think should be there.
And I think that process is so important, that what you just described, it's not take a look at what they want and then see what, I think that first step, we have to see as this body, what that land can, what that land can hold, what it can tolerate, and then we have to work together to understand the vision along with the rest of us to understand the vision
Absolutely.
before we start having conversations about, are you guys okay with this? Are we okay with this? No back and forth like that. It has to be done that way first.
And I'd add to that, that whatever this study is, needs to look at the surrounding areas. It's not just what this area can hold, but its effect on other
impact
areas.
everybody.
Yeah.
And
Right,
not
whether,
just,
all the things that you mentioned, I mean, roads in particular, that many people on those two roads, right, that Nicole mentioned, that's insane.
that funnels
So
out
when you
to
talk
one.
about infrastructure, I mean, those roads have to be widened all the way down to I-15, for crying out loud.
And add to that, Jared, that we don't have any job centers, so all we are saying is we're adding all of these residents and forcing them on already congested roads. So part of that general plan discussion is how can we create jobs out here so that some portion of those new residents can actually live, work
Stay
and
out
play
here.
here
Yeah.
and stay off the roads. I mean, if that's not part of the discussion, then why are we adding headache?
If we just entitle
existing
every
roads.
ounce of land in the valley with housing, that's all that will be there.
It's just
All we've done
gridlock.
is compounded the problem.
So
Our
whether
planning,
it's
our
roads,
planning has
water,
been insufficient.
sewer,
No, I agree, and I
all that
think,
falls out.
and so one of the things I would suggest is somebody's gonna do studies, whether it's the developer doing the study or the city
We should
doing
do
the
it,
study.
yes.
I
So,
agree.
so what we'll do is we'll come back to you with a proposal, probably on the 11th, to show you what we think would be an RFP, getting somebody on board to kind of facilitate this and get this process moving so that we have a basis to start a discussion.
And what I would also like to see happen is that we regularly communicate with the county, that they are understanding the processes that we're going through, that we are attempting to build a nice community out, and we're trying to bring them in and build a nice area that will meet the needs that are legitimate concerns of the county and the state. We do have to look at growth, we do have to look at all of those things. So again, I think conversation with the county to that effect will give them some confidence that we share the goals. We just want to find a way that works with our community and all of the
It
impact.
has to integrate into what already
We're not a
exists.
silo.
Oh, and not
It
just,
has to integrate
and
into
not
what
just our
already
community,
exists.
and not just what's already built. We need to continue to focus on the fact that our community will have an impact on South Jordan and Daybreak, and not just the Daybreak that's there now, but the Daybreak that's coming, and everything else long-term that's gonna be there, so that we don't have this conversation again in 10 years when all of a sudden we realize, oh,
Yes.
it's a mess and we didn't do our job. Let's do it now. And so yes, I would nod, yes, please start working on that process.
Okay, we will be bringing you some information
And
on the
keep the
11th.
county abreast of what steps we're taking as we work with the
Okay.
developer, so it not appear
Can the
that we
council
are
give a
speaking-
nod?
Oh, yeah, nodding,
I'm
not nodding yes,
yes.
but nodding yes.
I got 'em.
I just don't want it to, I want to
off.
bring the two lanes together. I think part of the problem with the Olympic Hills as we saw it is the county was going down one road without bringing us into the conversation. I don't wanna make that mistake. This is in fact in the county, so I want these two roads to converge and that we all know what the other one is doing so that we're coming up with the best product.
Great,
Absolutely.
great point.
All right, that sounds like we know what to do. Come back and talk to you on the 11th.
All right, so we will move to item 3.12, city manager updates. Brett Wood.
He's gone.
You nodded off.
He wishes he was gone. Stand up.
Well, most of it's not me talking anyway, so it doesn't matter. I got my assignments given to me by staff, and, so we have an update with you on Holiday Oil appeal, and it's John Grimm's. You ready, John?
Yeah.
Okay,
We made our arguments, it's under advisement.
Do we have any idea when we get a response?
And
when's the response coming? Maybe Gordon did a better job, he gave you
Yeah.
information.
So what happens is, the Alpine's Homes killed the Holiday gas station over by, the Real. And so they had the meeting the other day, and David Church got all the hearings. It was great. It took him a good hour. I was hoping it'd be a lot shorter, but it was a lengthy discussion. So we're probably 2.5 weeks out, and I think they'll give us our decision maybe. Usually they're about 2.
It might be faster.
It might be quicker.
We'll see.
But we
We
should
should
know
really
by
get
the
our
next
answers.
council meeting.
You'll probably know,
Perhaps.
and at the end of the day, if they're not happy with that decision, then the next decision would be elect a court. So that's kind of the steps of that. Just wanted to make sure you knew that appeal was heard going forward.
Have we heard any more on the other one that's?
Yeah, he's gonna give you another report in
Okay,
about 10
perfect.
minutes
Thank you
on
for
that
that.
one.
Can't be done here.
Excellent.
There was the planning commission appointment, we've had a
Resignation.
resignation of one, and it's time to replace one, and there was recommendation by the mayor about taking that fourth candidate or fifth candidate. I think he reached out to all of you supposedly. And staff is looking for direction, do we renotice and go through the process again? And look for maybe someone that has interest currently,
I
or,
look to these two already.
There's
They're
someone
in
that
interviews,
sat,
nice.
you know, in on those interviews and stuff, I'm comfortable with the name that was put forward, recommended to fill that vacancy currently.
Yeah, it was to fill it, to be an
Alternate.
Alternative, yeah.
That we were gonna try and bring
Right.
an alternate up.
they'd come as an alternate, and then I wanna move up into the,
No, I thought it's fine.
any other issues with that, you don't want us to start the process again, okay?
It's been just such a short time frame that
Okay.
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
And we've
That's
done
what
the
staff
same
will
thing
do
in the
then.
past, so.
I'm looking at Michael, and we'll see
Since
that
we lost the old planning chair, we are burning through these planning commissioners.
Right.
It's a tough job, though. It's a tough job,
Well,
but an
yes,
important.
They all are.
I ruled with fear and intimidation.
One is more of an emotional update. Chief Pilgrim's got an update on the child that fell out of the fourth floor apartment, what he can say publicly because of HEPA laws, but he will enlighten you a little bit what's been going on.
Yeah, so limited feedback, so they flight remote primaries yesterday. The crews at 103, typically when you get a call like that, the hospital will follow up with the crew just to give them some basic feedback on how the individual's doing. So kind of as they suspected, just based off of arrival, some fractures, broken bones, especially in the legs, because it looks like he probably fell, landed leg first. And then they're still looking at some potential CAT scan, CT scan stuff tomorrow just to rule out or determine if there's any other injuries that are undetectable. So, again, for us, especially in Heron, there's a lot of young, it's a young community, a lot of kids. I think it's just a good reminder. Those windows and stuff can appear to be pretty safe, but maybe a little kid can push a screen out the window and just
This isn't the first time this has
mistakenly
happened
fall.
either.
Yeah. Not only here, it happens in a lot of different communities, but again, just because of so many kids that live here, it's a common. Those pediatric calls seem to be pretty common, where you have a high percentage of kids, but it's pretty heartbreaking. It's difficult to deal with that stuff. The crews, both UPD and the UFA guys who responded did an awesome job. We had actually some brand new EMTs there who was kind of a interesting first call for them to experience, but they all handled it really well, and it was a pretty interesting learning opportunity for them. But yeah, our wishes to go out to that family and hope all is well, but it's definitely a difficult situation. Injury or not, it's just a very scary thing to experience. So
Is there any education that we can help, or that Perryman City can help, that the UFA may already have put together regarding window safety?
we kind of mention this every year, when we do like some safety talks, especially this time of year when windows are open, and you're, cool nights and all that stuff. It's just one of those things I think as parents we just have to remember those windows are open, and even if that, your little kid wanders off for 2 or 3 minutes, that's plenty of time for them to find something to get into, whether it's going through a window, cabinets in your house, like just a general. I think the big thing would be just, make sure your homes are kind of child-proof. I think a lot of us get comfortable as we have more kids and we don't worry about them as much, because we've been through 2 of these guys, we're good, but man, they always find a way to get into something. So I think it's just it's a unfortunate but great opportunity to just remind ourselves to always pay attention to that small stuff and we'll definitely make an effort, you know, when we do our presentations around the back, and that's something we talk to people about, it, you know, when the opportunity presents itself, but it's a difficult one to deal with, it's not common, but it happens too much, right? So.
You know, what brought to my mind is how much, the council reminds us on how much they're attached to, you know, 44,000 people, but yet one person, one child has an accident, Herman, and you're asking us what's going on, wondering what's happening, how's the family handling things, what's their needs. And it's a good reminder to me always, we're not that big yet, we're still small. We still may not know the child's name at first, doesn't matter to us, that's our child, that's our
It's part of our community.
resident, and wherever they are living in the community, but it happened here. And it's just very warming to me as a city manager to know that, yeah, we're getting bigger, but we're not getting so big we don't care. And that was the main focus I heard last few days talking to Tammy and stuff. So our hearts go out to the family. We will give you any updates once we find them, and reminding their child that this is a 2-story house 70 years ago. And
She's actually the daughter, or one of my daughter's best friends.
So, you know, and there's been one that didn't go so well, same 2 stories. So, it's just good, it's a good reminder to us all, we're not that big, and I'm glad we're not that big, we don't care.
Chief Peterson said, don't lose the local feel no matter how large you get. It's the same thing, right? Because no matter how large we get, we just have to make sure that we're in there.
To me, it's about that Harriman Field that was talked about earlier tonight. So, going on to another item, this is a reminder, town days, we do look at the council to share their time with us in the council booth. We've had 2 councils sign up, Sherry and the mayor, and we're looking for other people to attend.
Sign up already.
I'll be there.
I'll
be there. I'll just
I'll
have
bring
a
my other
couple
back
of
race
hats
for you.
to go, so. Because.
I know you guys are going on, but, we're trying to fill those slots to make sure that we represent the different departments of the city, and the council knows that some of the public wants to stop by, and they're very curious about what your future thoughts are in the community, so it'd be great to get that online. Also, before you leave the night, I believe your town day shirts are in Tammy's office, so don't.
Cole and I have experienced it for a couple of years, I think there's 3 new people.
Very bright. Finally, they are the color that I think Herman really is.
I know.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you were saying. Would you mind
It's
repeating
okay.
that?
Sorry,
Right.
Greg.
We're good. So just make sure you pick up your shirts. Third item came up,
shirts.
the mayor asked a question about, being on a committee that Senator Fillmore heads up, about federal monies coming into Utah and how to distribute and stuff, and serve on a committee. We looked at what the committee usually represents, it's a lot of Medicare issues and how they delegate, help make
Senator Fillmore has
recommendations on funding.
requested that I sit on that committee.
And I'm not sure that there's a lot of interest on behalf of the city, but still, if that's something you want the mayor to attend and be involved with, that's great, but we have spent a few hours researching some of the information, and Penny would like to make any comment on.
No, other than just right now, I mean, we don't really see that a lot of that benefits us, so we just weren't really sure if that's where you wanted to put resources, if there's not really a benefit to us at this time.
That'd be, I mean, that'd only be my only concern is that we're, expending time there, but again, I'm not gonna tell you how to spend all of your time for sure, but, obviously any type of a commitment like that can potentially take time away from something else, so that'd be my only concern, but.
I'm willing to do it. I think it gives me an opportunity more so to network with other individuals at the state level. And
do we know who else is anticipated to, or been asked to sit on the committee, and how many?
We have a list who's been on it, and where the vacancy, Mayor Alvord was.
I mean, this is just something that Fillmore's putting together?
no, it's a
it's been put
committee.
together
Standing
before.
committee.
Senate.
It's a standing committee. So when any federal money comes into the state, they have a group that talks about how it's allocated in federal dollars. Generally, it's the federal programmers that.
Social
I'll
programs.
tell you what I tell my
in
17-year-old
particular.
daughter. Whatever makes you happy, but don't embarrass me.
Understood.
What kind of response you get back from that?
Come on, Dad.
I bet you get a rolled eyes, but I'm not gonna.
I know, the extra response I get from that one's pretty good.
Okay, never mind, we don't need to bring that up.
No, we worry about
That used to be
Staff
family
is
member
just
who
a-
are
it's a good- it's a good
act that way,
recognition.
but
Yeah,
then they
yeah.
figured out that that was not a good way to go either.
Brett, I'm sorry, you were saying something?
So Senator, Fillmore, Andre,
I
Jim,
don't know that.
Onomoko, and,
Are they out of Utah County?
Iwamoto's up in
Ken
Cotton
Ivory.
Heights.
King,
King,
Quinn.
Quinn,
This gives me an opportunity
And
to
then
write
local
some of our
representatives
legislators.
are Dan Griffiths,
Still
Roger
embarrassed.
Jones, Ken Matthews, Mike Mauer, John Reedhead, and Susan Spears.
I don't have a problem with this.
we always get sensitive on staff, or, when Mayor asks this question, resources that we may have. Is it schedule,
But
space,
I guess
is it
that's.
monies, is it
staff
cars?
resources, so we have said we want a staff person at these meetings. Is that where we wanna spend staff time?
I would say, no, we wouldn't want to spend staff.
We would just look for something more of a
Sorry, I should've
mainstream
read
of
that.
us type it into a money pipeline, but it's not that. There's always
Does
interest.
this
always
ever
gonna be
deal
on,
with transportation federal funding?
It's
No.
social
Well,
issue
I-
primarily, right?
The federal one, like, all the federal
Medicare.
money will go through the Wasatch Front, so it won't go to this board, it will all go to, transit would go to the UTA, federal money would go, any transportation money would go to
That was my
UDOT.
original question was, I didn't know enough about this particular board, so I was looking to see where, what exactly it is that we're
Well, again, I don't know that, I agree with our staff in terms of, I don't see any money trickling down to Harriman from this. The benefit that I would see if I was to look for a benefit is just relationship building. So if this is the means by which you can do that, great. If you already have good relationships with some of those, which I
don't
think
know.
you do,
I have some, but not
Some.
most of them, I don't know.
then again, I would just echo a little bit what Clint said and look at, you have limited time, you have a family, we have very pressing needs in
Yes.
Harriman where we do need, so I
It's
think,
not-
again, I'm not going to say what you should do. I would say, really look at the pros and cons to determine if it's of value.
Okay,
And that's where I agree with, I'm not gonna tell you how to spend your time, but we need to be.
conscious,
conscious of
and
staff.
I
We
personally
appreciate you asking
appreciate
us the question,
Yeah.
but staff took a little time to look into it, and we just thought, rest of the
So-
staff, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I will talk to,
It's not
I
that
will
outrageous.
talk about it with staff again and come back and talk to you guys about it, and if you have any questions, please reach out to me.
I mean, again, if I was to look at where I would want your time, it would be something like on this transportation committee that
Exactly.
has a direct benefit. I mean, if I had to,
That is kind of where I was thinking.
alright.
That's all I have, Mayor. Is there something else that I've not heard from our staff members?
Okay. All right, with that, I will accept the motion to go into closed meeting
Yeah, for all three items
for all
tonight.
three items.
Plan to say them all?
You going
Yes.
for it? Who's going for it?
I'll do it, I get it.
I got a motion to temporarily recess the city council meeting to convene in closed session for the purpose to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual pending or reasonable imminent litigation and purchase, exchange, or lease real property as provided by Utah Code annotated 52-4-205.
Second,
Okay, motion is second. Nicole,
Yes.
Clint,
yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
I will vote yes. We are in closed session. Thank you
So
very